I never thought saying one simple word, no, could blow up my entire family. But that was before my brother, his entitled wife, and their daughter moved back into my mom's house and suddenly expected me to become their unpaid chauffeur, nanny, and doormat. They thought because I was the younger one, the one who still lived at home, I'd just roll over. They were wrong, and they were about to learn how far I'd go when someone tries to take advantage of me. If you've ever been the family member who does everything, or the one everyone assumes will sacrifice their life for their convenience, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe for more true revenge stories, and let's get into it. Because this one gets messy. I'm 23, a healthcare worker pulling irregular shifts, sometimes nights, sometimes painfully early mornings. And despite working myself half to death, I still live at home. Not because I'm lazy or irresponsible, but because housing prices in my area make buying anything short of a collapsing shed impossible. My mom owns the house outright and mortgage fully paid off. I pay her rent, half the market rate, mind you. And I do most of the housework, especially when she's traveling for her self-employed work. It's not a glamorous setup, but it's ours. Or it was, until the Friday everything changed. I heard the car doors slamming before I even got downstairs. I'd just come off a 12-hour shift and was still wearing my scrubs, smelling vaguely like antiseptic and exhaustion. When I reached the hallway, my mom stood with her arms open wide, hugging my brother, his wife Rose, and their 6-year-old daughter like returning royalty. My brother, 31, chronically irresponsible but weirdly self-righteous, wore the same look he always did, the "you should be grateful for my presence" expression. Rose, his wife, she stepped inside like she already owned the place. I forced a smile, even though my eyes burned from lack of sleep. "Hey," I said softly. "Did everything go okay with the house?" Rose sighed dramatically like she'd just returned from war. "The toilet and shower don't work, and the heating's basically dead. It'll take at least a month to fix." My mom ushered them in, promising them food, space, comfort, everything she could. She has a big heart, and sometimes it overflows in ways that drown everyone around her. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I could handle it. I had no idea what storm was heading straight for me. It started the next morning. I'd slept maybe 4 hours when Rose knocked on my door, bright and chipper like the sun itself had kissed her forehead. Meanwhile, I looked like a raccoon recovering from a car crash. "Hey," she said in that voice people use when they want something. "Could you do me a huge favor?" I blinked at her. Maybe." "It's about getting to school." Her school is basically on your way to work, 5 minutes from the hospital. I nodded slowly. "Normally our neighbor handles it, but we can't rely on her right now," Rose continued. "My husband works at 7 and we share a car. I only work Sundays, so we need you to drop her off every day at 8. Every day at 8. The same 8 where half the time I was either finishing a night shift at 9 or 10 a.m. or starting a shift at 6 a.m. I swallowed. "Rosa, I can't. My schedule's all over the place. Sometimes I'm literally still at work at 8. Her smile didn't drop, but it got thinner, tighter, like a rubber band about to snap. "Well, can't you just tell your boss you need to be available for school drop-off?" I stared at her. She stared back like she was serious. In healthcare, requesting restricted availability basically means congratulations, you want fewer shifts and less income. I opened my mouth to explain, but she cut me off. "I know it's not that simple," she said quickly, waving her hand. "But I really need you to step up for us." Step up, like I hadn't been stepping up my entire life. I tried reasoning with her. "Rosie's, the school is a 15-minute walk from here. Flat road, safe crossings. You could walk her." She blinked. "That's too far for a child to walk." I tilted my head. "I walked that road every day growing up." "Yeah, well," she said dismissively, "I'm not doing that. It's too far." At this point, my jaw genuinely dropped. I even pulled out Google Maps to show her the distance, thinking maybe she just didn't know. Nope. She saw the map and doubled down. "It's too far." I took a breath. "Then walking is your best option. I really can't take her every day." She didn't argue further, not to me. But I'd learn later she had plenty to say behind my back. A few hours later, my mom approached me with that soft, guilty expression all mothers have when they're about to advocate for the needy, sibling at the expense of the responsible one. Sweetheart. She started. Roz is really upset. My stomach dropped. What? Why? She told me you refused to help with the school runs. I rubbed my temples. I told her I can't. My shifts don't allow it. Mom sighed. I know. And you're right. But it would be a really nice thing to do, just until their house is fixed. I stared at her. When I was a kid, you walked me to the same school from this same house. She flinched. I know, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I understand, she said it. But the seed of guilt had already been planted. And my brother, he watered it with gasoline. That evening, my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from my brother. Seriously, you can't help with Owen tying. It's a smell ask. Even our neighbor did it, and she's older than you. You're being selfish? Selfish. For protecting my job. For not bending my life around his. And that's when something in me cracked. Not snapped. Not yet, but cracked loud enough that even I heard it. This wasn't about a school run anymore. It was about entitlement. It was about them seeing me as the kid, the helper, the default babysitter, the one who would drop everything because they expected me to. And I realized if I didn't put a stop to this now, it would get worse. Much worse. That crack inside me. It was the first sign I was about to break the entire situation wide open. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of heaviness in my chest, like I'd swallowed a stone while sleeping. The air in the house felt different. Thicker, heavier, like walking through humidity made of judgment. When I stepped into the kitchen, the conversation stopped mid-sentence. 3 pairs of eyes flicked to me, my brother's annoyed, Rose's wounded, performative, my mother's conflicted, apologetic. My niece sat at the table, swinging her legs, oblivious to the adult storm brewing around her. I grabbed a mug and poured coffee, trying to act normal, pretending I didn't feel the tension like static on my skin. But Rose couldn't help herself. She sighed loudly, too loudly. It's just really hard, she said to no one in particular. Some people don't realize how tough it is being a mom. My brother chimed in. Especially when family refuses to help. My spoon clicked against the mug. They were talking about me in front of me. Nothing makes you feel smaller than being treated like you're not even in the room. I kept my voice even. I already explained my schedule. I can't commit to school drop-offs. Rose shrugged dramatically. Yeah, we heard you, loud and clear. My brother muttered under his breath, unbelievable. I felt something tighten inside my chest. Not guilt, no. Something firmer, hotter. A spark. But I held it in. For now. Over the next few days, things only got worse. I'd come home from an exhausting shift, legs aching, eyes burning, to find Rose waiting in the hallway. Did you get your new rota yet? She'd ask it like she was asking about the weather. If I said I didn't know my shifts yet, she'd say, well, make sure you plan around school drop-offs. If I told her a shift clashed with 8 a.m., she would hum disapprovingly, literally hum, like a disappointed teacher. She started making comments like, it must be nice having no kid responsibilities. You're young, you should have tons of energy. You live here rent-free. Oh, wait, sorry. Discounted rent. She always emphasized discounted. The implication was clear. I owed them. The tipping point came on a Thursday morning. I'd worked an overnight that ended at 9 a.m., and all I wanted was food and sleep. I shuffled into the kitchen, barely awake, hair in a messy bun, hoodie half zipped. My brother was leaning against the counter, arms crossed. Rose sat at the dining table, arms crossed. My mother looked trapped between them. My brother spoke first. We talked, he said. My eyelids were so heavy, it took a second to process the words. And I asked slowly. Rose cleared her throat. We need a firm answer from you about the school drop-offs. This uncertainty is really messing with our routine. I blinked. My answer hasn't changed. My brother scoffed. You can't seriously be this selfish. Selfish. There it was again. I gripped the edge of the counter, grounding myself. Rose leaned forward, voice trembling with fox emotion. I just don't understand why you won't help your family. I mean, you're living at home. You don't have kids. Your schedule is flexible. My schedule is not flexible. I snapped before I could stop myself. I am not putting my job at risk. She laughed, like I'd told a joke. Oh, come on. They're not going to fire you just because you ask for a small adjustment. You don't know anything about my field? I shot back. My brother stood straighter. Don't talk to her like that. My mother stepped in. Please, everyone calm down. But the dam had broken. My brother glared at me. You're being dramatic. It's a kid, not a burden. We're only asking for one small thing. I took a slow breath. One small thing every single day, at a time I often cannot physically be here, for an entire month or more. That's not small. He shook his head. You're unbelievable? Rose added softly. This is why we didn't want to move in here, all this attitude. My jaw clenched. That little crack inside me from earlier, it widened. For the next 3 days, they froze me out. Every room I walked into suddenly became dead silent. Every conversation stopped as if someone had pressed pause. My brother wouldn't look at me. Rose wouldn't speak to me. Even my niece sensed something and kept her distance. My mother tried to stay neutral, but even she had moments where her tone softened more toward them than me. And I don't blame her. She was caught in a crossfire she never asked for. But the worst part, they stopped doing anything around the house. Dishes piled up, laundry overflowed. The trash bin became a leaning tower of garbage. And they waited for me to do it, because I always did it. This was their way of teaching me a lesson, punishing me for saying no. The message was clear. We'll make your living situation miserable until you cave. But here's the thing they didn't understand. I do healthcare. I have been yelled at, cried on, threatened, puked on, insulted, and dumped with responsibilities no one else wanted. I don't break. Not easily. But that doesn't mean I don't feel it. I cried in the shower twice that week, quietly, because God forbid they hear me. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing conversations I'd never say out loud. I felt small in my own home. But most importantly, I started thinking deeper, darker, sharper. If they wanted to play games, I could play too, but smarter. Saturday morning arrived, and with it, my breaking point. I was on the sofa, finally relaxing for the first time in days, eating leftover pasta and watching a show on my laptop. My brother walked in, saw me, and burst out laughing. Wow, he said loudly. Nice to see you finally doing something. I froze. Rose followed him in, arms folded. You know, if you're going to be living at home into your 20s, the least you can do is contribute, not just watch TV all day. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. I pay rent, I said quietly, and bills and groceries, and I do most of the housework. My brother waved a hand dismissively. Yeah, whatever. Stop exaggerating. Then Rose delivered the line that sealed their fate. Maybe if you helped with the school run like a responsible adult, we'd take you more seriously. Responsible adult, take you more seriously. Like I was a child, like I was beneath them, like I was less. Something inside me clicked into place. A cold, quiet clarity. If they wanted a war, I was done fighting defensively. I was going to change the battlefield. The revenge didn't start that day, but the planning did, and it would be beautiful. The moment Rose said those words, maybe if you helped like a responsible adult, I felt something inside me go eerily quiet. Not angry, not hurt, just resolute. The kind of quiet that comes right before a storm. I didn't shout. I didn't defend myself. I didn't even look at them. I just closed my laptop, stood up from the sofa, and walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard Rose whisper something smug. My brother chuckled, but they had no idea. They just detonated the last bit of goodwill I had. And the revenge, it had already started growing like a vine wrapping around a wall. Slow, deliberate, unstoppable. Because here's the thing about living with difficult people, they assume your silence means surrender. But in my case, it meant strategy. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Every insult replayed in my head, but this time I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking, I was planning, thinking about patterns, weaknesses, schedules. Who needed what? Who depended on whom? My brother and Rose's biggest assumption was that they held the power. That because they were older, married, had a child, and had returned home due to their own irresponsibility, they could dictate the terms of everyone's life. But they forgot something. This was my home too, and I was the one who actually kept it running. Quietly. Unnoticed. But essential. When someone underestimates you long enough, they eventually give you all the tools you need to absolutely destroy their sense of control. And the first tool. Information over the next week, I observed everything. Their routines, their habits, their expectations. It was like watching a reality show, except I was the only one not embarrassing myself. I noticed, Rose never left the house before 10 a.m. She spent most mornings scrolling on her phone or re-watching shows. She complained about walking, even short distances. My brother refused to help with school because he worked early, but he had plenty of time to sit on his phone before his shift. They relied completely on the shared car, leaving my mom's driveway at odd hours. I also noticed something much more important. They had gotten extremely comfortable. Too comfortable. They treated the house like a hotel, not a shared home. They left mess everywhere. Used up all the hot water. Ate groceries they didn't buy. Acted like I was staff. And the more they took, the more leverage I gained. Because people like them only notice your absence when they suddenly need you. I was going to give them a very harsh lesson in not biting the hand that keeps the entire household functioning. My first move was subtle. I stopped doing everything. No dishes, no laundry, no trash, no groceries, no cooking, no cleaning. If some was mine, I handled it. If it wasn't, I didn't touch it. Within 72 hours, the house looked like an archaeological site from a failed civilization. Dishes stacked in leaning, crusty towers. Laundry baskets overflowing. Trash spilling out like it was trying to escape. My brother and Rose kept waiting for me to clean it up. They waited and waited and waited. By day 4, Rose snapped. She cornered me as I made a cup of tea. Are you seriously just going to leave the house like this? I took a slow sip before answering. If it's yours, I'm not responsible for it. She blinked at me, stunned. But you always. Well, I said, meeting her eyes evenly, maybe now you'll take me more seriously. Her mouth opened, then closed. My brother, overhearing from the hallway, muttered something under his breath but didn't step in. It was a small win. But satisfying. A few nights later, while everyone was asleep, I drafted a polite but firm message. Not emotional, not aggressive, just factual, cold, professional. I outlined my responsibilities, their responsibilities, my schedule, the fact I cannot and will not do school drop-offs, the expectation that everyone cleans up their own mess, and a gentle reminder that I pay rent and am not obligated to act as their live-in babysitter or maid. I sent it in the family WhatsApp group. My hands shook a little as I hit send, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The next morning, the reaction was exactly what I expected. My brother texted back, "Wow. Then, you didn't need to be so dramatic. Then, we're famile why." Rose chimed in with, "I didn't know you hated us this much. We're trying our best." But here's the thing, family doesn't mean doormat. I didn't reply. Silence is an underrated weapon. Later that week, my mom quietly pulled me aside. She looked tired, not physically, emotionally. "I read your message," she said softly, "and you're right." It took me a moment to process that. "You are a grown woman," she continued. "You work hard. You pay rent, and they've been unfair to you." She paused, as if choosing her next words carefully. "I think I let them take advantage of your kindness because it kept the peace, but it wasn't fair to you." Something loosened in my chest, a knot I didn't realize had been tightening for years. She wasn't choosing sides. She was acknowledging reality. "And just so you know," she added, "I told your brother that if they don't respect the rules of this house, they will need to find somewhere else to stay." My heart did a strange flip. I hadn't expected her to step up like that. And as it turned out, my brother hadn't either. That night, I overheard my brother and Rose arguing in the hallway. Their whispers were sharp and frantic. "She's turning Mom against us," Rose hissed. "She's being selfish," my brother snapped. "We need her. I can't be late for work, and you won't walk. I'm not walking a 6-year-old 15 minutes in the cold." Rose shot back. "So fix it." They were unraveling. Their united front cracked. Blame started bouncing back and forth between them. And I realized something crucial. They weren't mad because I said no. They were mad because they needed me. and they hated needing me. Their entitlement wasn't just arrogance. It was insecurity dressed up as superiority. This made my next move easy, because revenge works best when the target is already unstable. My plan wasn't explosive, wasn't dramatic, wasn't cruel. It was strategic. A long, slow, calculated erosion of their comfort. The kind of revenge that doesn't look like revenge at all. Because the ultimate punishment for people who refuse to take responsibility is forcing them to finally confront their own incompetence. My plan was simple. Stop cushioning their laziness. Stop giving them someone to blame. Stop being the glue holding their chaotic life together. Let natural consequences do what I no longer cared to do manually. And as I executed each step quietly, subtly, methodically, my brother and Rose were about to learn that I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their solution. And I definitely wasn't their servant. The day everything exploded was coming. They just didn't know it yet. But I did. I could feel it like a storm building pressure in the sky. And when it finally hit, it would change everything. The pressure in the house had become unbearable. Not for me. I'd made peace with the silence, the tension, the passive-aggressive sighs. But for them, it was like living in a pressure cooker with the lid about to rocket into orbit. And I knew exactly how to push it just a little bit further so it would blow at the perfect moment. Because revenge, true revenge, isn't about screaming or slamming doors. It's about timing, accuracy, letting arrogance destroy itself once the support beams are quietly removed. And the day it all collapsed, it started out so normal it was almost boring. It was a Wednesday, cold, gray, the kind of morning where you can see your breath when you talk. Perfect. I'd worked the night shift, finishing at 9 a.m., so I wasn't home when the implosion began. But when my phone started blowing up with messages from my mom, I knew today was the day. The first text from her came in at 8:14 a.m.'s. Can you call me? Something happened. Then, actually don't call. I'll explain when you get home. Then, everything is chaotic, a chaos. My favorite word at 7:25 a.m., my brother and Rose were already running late. Why? Because they assumed, despite everything I'd said, that I would probably take their daughter to school anyway. When they realized I wasn't home after my shift. Panic. Where is she? She's supposed to help, Rose shrieked. Sai wasn't supposed to help. I never said I would, but entitlement creates its own fantasy world. And my brother was pacing, shouting, blaming everyone except himself. You said she'd come around, he barked. And while you said you'd talk to her mother, Rose fired back. Meanwhile, their daughter sat on the couch in her little purple coat, watching the grown-ups fall apart. At 7:40, Rose made a dramatic announcement. I'm not walking. I refuse to walk in this coal. My brother shouted back, Tihen fagi or itiot. They went in circles, yelling louder, accomplishing nothing. My mom stepped in, timidly suggesting they could, walk. Rose, politely, said, It's our daughter's job to help since she lives here for cheap rent. My mom told me she actually felt the temperature drop when she heard that, because that's the moment she snapped me. Mom is one of the gentlest people alive. But everyone has their limits. She pointed at Rose, voice low and trembling. My daughter pays rent. And bills. And she works far harder than either of you right now. You do not get to demand anything from her. My brother tried interrupting, but she didn't let him. And while you, she said sharply, have been treating her like she's a servant. This is MY home, and I will not tolerate you bullying her. Rose scoffed. My brother muttered. Mom raised a hand, quiet but firm. No, I'm done. If you cannot behave respectfully, you need to find somewhere else to stay. Silence. Dead. Cold. Shocking. My brother stood there stunned, like he'd been slapped with a frozen fish. Rose sputtered. You can't just kick us out. I can, my mom said. And if this continues, I will. The threat hung in the air like electricity. And then, in perfect cosmic timing, my mom delivered the final blow. School starts in 15 minutes. Figure it out yourselves. She turned, grabbed her purse, and walked out the door, leaving them standing in their own mess. Finally, with no other choice, Rose was forced to do the thing she had sworn was impossible: walk. 15 whole minutes. With her perfectly functioning legs, and her perfectly healthy child, and she made sure everyone knew how much she hated it. My mom later said she could hear Rose complaining down the street for a full 2 minutes after they left. My brother stayed behind, slamming cupboards and muttering about disrespect and betrayal and how no one appreciates what he does. Classic. They were both unraveling. And the best part, I hadn't done anything, I hadn't yelled. I hadn't fought. I hadn't schemed. I had simply stopped saving them. And they collapsed under the weight of their own entitlement. When I walked in at 9:30 a.m., the house was unusually quiet. My mom was sitting at the dining table, drinking tea, alone, composed. She looked up at me with an expression I hadn't seen on her in a long time. Clarity. "We need to talk," she said. I sat down, braced myself. But what she said surprised me. "I'm proud of you." I blinked. "What?" "I should have stood up for you earlier," she said. "They've taken advantage of you. And I let it happen because I wanted to keep the peace. That wasn't fair to you." I felt my throat tighten. "And if they speak to you like that again," she added, "they are gone. I won't hesitate." It wasn't just validation. It was vindication. She saw me. She saw everything. And in that moment, every frustration, every insult, every sleepless night just melted. When Rose and my brother returned, they didn't speak to me. They tiptoed around the house, quieter than I'd ever seen them. At dinner, Rose kept her eyes down. My brother didn't make a single snide remark. The silence wasn't tense. It was defeated. 2 days later, my brother knocked on my door. He stood there awkwardly, hands in pockets, eyes on the floor. "Well, we're gonna handle the school thing ourselves," he mumbled. "Good. And sorry for how things got, for not exactly heartfelt. But it was the closest thing to an apology he'd ever given me in our entire lives." Rose didn't apologize, but she stopped complaining, stopped making digs, stopped acting like I owed her anything. Respect born not from affection, but necessity, because entitlement crumbles quickly when the person you're exploiting finally steps out of the role you assigned them. The dynamic shifted. They kept to themselves, cleaned their own things, did their own dishes, handled their own routines. And for the first time since they moved in, I could breathe. A week later, their contractor told them the house repairs would take another 2 weeks. I expected groaning, tantrums, drama. Instead, I saw something better: resignation. They knew this wasn't their territory anymore. Not their domain, not their kingdom, because I had reclaimed my space. Not with aggression, not with vengeance, but with boundaries so sharp they cut the entire narrative they'd built around me. Here's the thing about revenge: people expect explosions, drama, big scenes. But the most powerful revenge is silent. It's when you stop protecting people from the consequences of their own choices and let life teach them the lessons they refuse to learn from kindness. I didn't sabotage them. I didn't manipulate anything. I simply stepped back, and they tripped over their own entitlement. In the end, they learned I wasn't their maid. I wasn't their backup parent. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their scapegoat. I was an adult they'd underestimated for far too long. And worst of all for them, my mom saw it too. Looking back, I realized something important: revenge doesn't always require fire. Sometimes it just requires absence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop carrying people who never planned to carry you. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you aware of your worth. And if someone gets angry at your boundaries, it means they were benefiting from your lack of them. I didn't break my family. I revealed the cracks they'd been hiding, and I walked away lighter, freer, finally seen. Sometimes the best revenge is reclaiming your own damn life. If you've ever been the responsible one, the overlooked one, the one everyone expected to bend, this story is for you. If you enjoyed this long-form revenge tale, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me you are boundary setting moment. Because your story might be the next one I bring to life